We've had a lot of viewers asking questions about this shooting, so these details may clear some of that up. The man I spoke with describes it as a tragic end to road rage. He didn't want to show his face or use his name, so we have protected his identity and the identity of his friend, the victim's son. Here's his first-hand account of what happened a week ago.
The man was coming out after me, and I'm sure his dad would want to see his son get hurt. I just wish it could have went a different way than that.
He watched his best friend's dad take a bullet, sitting in the passenger seat of a car pulled over on I-10 last Sunday, November 5th.
He was always a very happy person. He's a very good guy, and he's got a great group of friends. He was always there for everybody. He would always help everybody out.
He's talking about 42-year-old Timothy Pinkard, a man he says was just protecting his son. This picture taken seconds after Pinkard was shot. It shows the intense moment the shooter allegedly forced Pinkard's son to the ground at gunpoint after he tried to help his dad. It's a tragic end to road rage that started miles away just 15 minutes before. A simple errand that turned into a nightmare. He and Pinkard's son were making a quick cigarette run at this gas station in Tillman's Corner. He's now telling only Fox 10 News it all started with heated words. He says before pulling out a gun on I-10, the shooter pulled out in front of them on Highway 90. The witness, who again was in the car with the victim's son, says the shooter cut them off somewhere on this stretch of Highway 90. He says the cars then stopped in the middle of the road, and that's when the shooter got out of his car and assaulted them.
And then slams on brakes and blows the horn at him and told him to learn how to drive. He said, "What'd you say, you little punk?" And that's when he jumped out. I walked up to the vehicle and started punching him in the face, yelled at him to get out the vehicle, and the dude punched him a couple more times and got back in his vehicle and drove off.
As he called police, he says Pinkard's son, who was driving, called his dad, then started to follow his alleged attacker.
I was trying to get the cops to know where he was, and I was seeing if they would come to him as he was on the phone with him, so we can do assault charges.
He recalls the pursuit lasting about 15 minutes. The shooter got off and on the interstate near Tillman's Corner a couple times.
At this point, it seems like that driver is trying to get away from you guys. Why keep following him?
Because I didn't want them to get away with what he did.
But everything came to a halt near the River Duchesne overpass. He says at that point, Pinkard, who was still on the phone with his son, caught up to the cars on I-10. He told his son to box the shooter in.
Put yourself in the other man's shoes for a second. Do you think he had reason to think that his life was in danger at that point?
I mean, he could have thought that, but he had just assaulted somebody for apparently no reason. So he was the one in the wrong.
He says when the car stopped, the tables turned. The shooter got out of his car with a gun and headed straight for Pinkard's son and his friend. They were in this black car. Pinkard then got out of his truck, also with a gun, pointed it at the shooter, and stopped him.
And then jumps out and says, "Dad, that's him." And that's when Tim jumped out and said, "Stop, that's my son you're going after." And that's when the dude turns around and takes a quick glance at Tim and just draws his gun and fires 3 times, and one bullet hit him below the heart. But once I saw the gun and heard the shots, I feared for my life. Because that man had just shot one person and was very capable of just walking over there and shooting me or my friend as well.
From the car, he heard the shooter yelling at Pinkard's son to get on the ground as he tried to help his dad. That's the moment a witness passing by snapped this picture. When the shooter walked away, the friend says that's when he and Pinkard's son ran to help Pinkard, who was laying inside his truck with a bullet in his chest.
He was sitting there freaking out, crying on top of his dad, trying to make sure he's okay, just begging for him not to die on him.
But a grand jury will now decide whose protection was justified. Was the shooter defending himself, or was a father defending his son? He admits things could have been handled differently, but doesn't regret trying to get justice for his friend.
Do you feel any guilt?
I mean, I wish the whole situation could have been avoided, and I wish I can go back and just never even take that route. Not stop at the gas station, not make that U-turn. Just go straight home.
Now, investigators say the shooter could still face charges related to the alleged assault in Tillman's Corner. In the meantime, the case has been sent to a grand jury. Pinkard was laid to rest on Friday.